Hello again, everyone. I'm going to finish off LA week with my look at the other NBA team in Los Angeles, the Clippers, who last year had a 56-26 record, which led to the number 3 seed in the West. They didn't have any picks in this past draft, but they did make some trades and did pick up Brandon Dawson, who is a rookie forward who has been playing really well in the summer league. So we'll see if he can make an impact on this team, and if he does play on the team at all once the NBA regular season gets going. Maybe he'll play in the D League, or maybe he'll go and play overseas. We'll see what happens with him, but he's been playing really well in the summer league. Really hard to take that as a good. I mean, it's a good thing for sure when he does play well in the summer league. But can he transfer that to the NBA game? You don't really know, because you don't necessarily play top NBA caliber talent in the summer league. Yes, you're going to play other top picks in the draft. It's going to be a lot of guys who are invitees to summer camp and play in the summer league, and draft picks from this past draft, and maybe guys that have only been in the league for a year or two but didn't get in a lot of playing time kind of thing. Guys who maybe played in the D League for a year or two, but you're not going to be playing against veterans, top NBA talent in the summer league. So it's really hard to know if he'll be able to transfer his success in the summer league to the NBA game. But we'll see what happens. Clippers very, very active this offseason. Have brought in Paul Pierce, as well as very recently Josh Smith. Great veteran guys to bring in for sure. They also signed Wesley Johnson, coming over from the Lakers, so staying in LA, just coming over from the Lakers, joining the Clippers, as well as Cole Aldrich, who is a nice center backup to have behind DeAndre Jordan, who they recently re-signed. Not going to get into the whole DeAndre Johnson fiasco. If you want my opinions on that, you can always head over to the Green Talk podcast on Twitter, where me and my buddies Trent and Brandon, as well as some other people who write for Green Runs Deep, which is a Celtics and NBA fan page that I write some articles with and do some podcasts with. So you can head over to those if you're interested, and those are my opinions on that. Just real quick, for me, obviously, a couple days in, he verbally agreed to sign with the Mavericks, but then they kind of left him alone, and that's where I think they went wrong, and why he did go back to LA, is just because you get a verbal agreement from a guy, it's early in free agency, you take that week and you wine and dine the guy, show him that he's going to be appreciated in Dallas, and you do all you can to make Dallas an appealing place to go to. Of course, the check that he would have been given, the contract he would have been given, should be enough to have a guy want to come and play for your team. But if the team he's currently on is going to offer him the same kind of money, and they're going to sit him down 2 days before free agency is done and really push to get him to re-sign, then you didn't do your job enough to get him to come to Dallas. Like I said, just because he verbally agreed, that doesn't mean your job's done there. You need to wine and dine the guy, show him that he's going to be appreciated in Dallas, so show him that you want him to be the guy in Dallas. Obviously in Dallas, they still got Nowitzki, but he's nearing the end of his career. They're going to need somebody else to come in and become the new face of that franchise, and I think DeAndre Jordan could have done that if they, kept the phones going and kept the communication open for that whole process, that whole week during free agency. But that's just my thoughts on DeAndre Jordan. The other thing I'm thinking for the Clippers, since that's who I'm finishing this week off, if I'm the Clippers, showing how badly they wanted to re-sign him, I think that, in my opinion, kind of shows that they think without DeAndre Jordan, they don't have a championship team. And in my opinion, that's partly true. I think Chris Paul and Blake Griffin are great guys. They are fantastic, and they can take this team to a very solid 50-win season, I think. 45-win season. I think those two guys can do with a solid group around them. But DeAndre Jordan is what gets you over that hump, makes you a championship contending team. When you get rid of the guy, or you don't have the guy who averaged 15 rebounds a night last night, most teams are going to be happy if their center averages 8 boards a night. This guy is almost doubling that, and that's his average. So there's nights where he's going to go out and get you 20 boards. And if he has a night where he only gets 11 boards, so that's a bad night for DeAndre Jordan, which would be a great night for many players. But that's a bad night for him. So you got to find a way to keep him on your roster for sure. He's not obviously going to be a big point guy for you. Like I said, he averaged 15 boards, but he only averaged about 11.5 points. So he's not going to be a big point guy. You don't need him to be a big point guy, though. When you got Chris Paul and Blake Griffin on your team, you just need him to get the boards. And I think if he were to go and sign with Dallas, I definitely think the Clippers would have had a hard time being a top 3 team in the West without him. So definitely a guy they needed to keep for sure. And they've added in a lot of great pieces. With Paul Pierce and recently with Josh Smith, you have 2 guys there that have starting caliber talent. Pierce obviously is a bit later in his career, but him and Doc Rivers, we all know from their time in Boston, have a great working relationship, and Doc is going to find a way to make Paul Pierce have a great impact on this team and play him that's going to be most successful for the Clippers organization. And Josh Smith is a great guy to have coming off the bench and could potentially start for you as well. This team has a bench now with Paul Pierce and Josh Smith and Wesley Johnson. They got a lot of guys on this bench that can be starters. So if guys get hurt or if guys don't play well, you have bench players that can come into a starting role. When it gets to the playoffs, they have some playoff experience. Not so much with Wesley Johnson, obviously coming from the Lakers, but Josh Smith, obviously playing for Houston last year. Paul Pierce with the Wizards, and the years he's played with the Celtics when they were making the playoffs. So those guys have playoff experience, and they're good veterans to have for sure. The other reason I think they signed Josh Smith and signed Wesley Johnson is a lot of the forwards they have are older and are free agents. Turkoglu's a free agent. Udo's a free agent. Glenn Davis is a free agent. And all of those guys, I think, aren't a huge loss. Like, let them go and sign with other teams, possibly let them retire, but I think Glenn Davis is not somebody this team needs. He only averaged 4 points and 2.3 boards last year. Played in 74 games, so you know he's durable. But he's not going to be a big production guy for you. And as far as I'm concerned, as soon as they signed Cole Aldrich and then re-signed DeAndre Johnson, Davis doesn't really have a spot in this team. I don't really think he fits the mold, fits what this team wants to do. I don't think he's going to get the playing time if he stays in LA. I think he'd be lucky to get 10 minutes a game if he does stay in LA, so I think he's fine if you leave him. Turkoglu, again, is old. His best years are behind him, and Udo really hasn't done a heck of a lot as far as I can remember while he's been playing with LA. And they got a solid team. When you bring in Josh Smith, you bring in Paul Pierce. Yes, they're veterans, but they still got something left in the tank for sure. Wesley Johnson played very solid for the Lakers last year. 10 points per game, 4.5 boards, 1.5 assists kind of thing. Started in 59 of the 76 games he played in, so again, he can start potentially. But I think your main starting guys, obviously DeAndre Jordan, I already mentioned his numbers, 11.5 points, 15 boards, as well as about an assist per game, played in all 82 games. Chris Paul, obviously, played in all 82 games, 19.1 points per game with 10.2 assists, also had 4.5 boards. So you have two guys on this team now, one who averages 15 boards a night, another guy who averages 10 assists per night. It's hard to find guys who are going to average double-digit boards, and even harder to find a point guard that can average double-digit assists. I think there might have been 4 total in the whole league last year in the assist category that averaged double-digit assists. Chris Paul being one of them. If he could get his point total up, I think that'd be great. 19.1 I think is a little low. But if he's finding the ball and gets 10 assists per game, then he's obviously a guy you want handling the ball because he's finding those open guys and is leading to 10 assists. There's potential 20 to 30 points that he is contributing, not initially or not directly contributing those 20 to 30 points, but in some manner is contributing with those 10 assists per game. Obviously, Blake Griffin played in 67 games last year, started all of those, so when you take Blake Griffin out for 10 to 15 games, that's obviously going to affect the team. I think that's why they had a 56-26 record. I think if he played those other 15 games, they could have easily had a 60-plus win season. Griffin last year averaged 22 points, 7.5 boards, 5.5 assists. Great numbers from him. And that's a solid 1-2-3 punch that you have right there. Redick, I think, kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit with this team. Averaged 16.5 points per game last year. Very solid numbers from him. Big trade they did make when they sent Matt Barnes and Spencer Hayes to pick up Lance Stevenson. I think is another great guy to have on this team. Played in 61 games last year with 25 starts. 8.5 points, 4.5 boards, 4 assists. Good guard to have on this team for sure as well. And Crawford, another great bench guy to have. 64 games he played in last year with 4 starts, and he averaged 16 points with a couple boards and 2.5 assists. Very solid roster they have on this team, especially now that they've brought in Josh Smith and Paul Pierce. This team, I think, is destined for greatness if all these guys stay healthy, if they find their roles and mesh together well as a team. It's going to take a little while for Paul Pierce and for Josh Smith to find a way to get going with this group, but Jordan, Paul, Redick, Griffin, Crawford, all of those guys have that experience with each other. They have that chemistry that you can start out of the gates, and you're not going to have to take that first quarter of the season getting to know each other to build that team chemistry. It's already there, and I think Aldrich is kind of flies under the radar as a signing, especially with all the drama that happened with DeAndre Jordan. But Aldrich, I think, is a solid backup center for this team. Played in 61 games with 16 starts. and had 5.5 points and 5.5 boards. So DeAndre Jordan can go out and play a solid 30 to 35 minutes. You bring Aldridge in for the other 10 to 15. I think he's a solid backup center. I think he's okay there. I don't think Davis is going to be around on this team after the signings of Josh Smith and Cole Aldrich. I don't think he's going to stick around. Turkoglu, I don't think he'll be around. Udo, I don't think he'll be around. So a lot of their backup players won't be there anymore, but the main core group is still going to be there after the re-signing of DeAndre Jordan. So good things are ahead for sure for this LA team. Not so much the Lakers, but I think the Clippers are definitely got a solid season ahead of them. 56-26 last year. If these guys stay healthy, I can easily see a 60-win season happening for the Clippers and a deep playoff push. So those are my thoughts on the Clippers, and with that, it ends my LA week. Thank you again all for watching. You can follow me on Twitter at GHAM614, and I'll be back next week with a new team and new city, new teams. All right, there we go. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.